Have you ever thought why that brilliant friend of yours who excels at multiple things in life can't seem to leave her toxic relationship? And if you've ever thought, just leave already, to no avail, then this video is for you. Today, I'm revealing why people stay in relationships that obviously hurt them, and what trauma bonding is, and why it keeps even the smartest people stuck in their love lives. Hi, I'm Petya, and I'm a certified neurolinguistic programming coach who helps people heal emotionally and have the right mindset that helps them excel at life in their personal and professional life. Welcome to my channel. You see, trauma bonding is what happens when your brain creates powerful attachments to someone who hurts you. It's like emotional superglue that gets stronger with each painful experience. I'll show you why the brain gets hijacked and why thousands of people struggle to leave. Let's get started. First of all, what is trauma bonding? So let me make trauma bonding crystal clear. It's not just a bad relationship, it's your brain getting addicted. Think of it like this. If normal love is like enjoying a delicious meal regularly, being in a trauma bond is like starving and having someone else decide when you get food. Eventually, you feel like you need this person to survive, so your brain is trying to adapt to that situation in the best way possible through a bonding hormone, oxytocin. And so brain scans show people in trauma bonds display the same patterns as drug addicts looking at their substance of choice. If you try to leave a trauma bond, you start experiencing withdrawal symptoms. So this is very hard because it feels so uncomfortable, painful. That's why people in trauma bonds try to prevent feeling that at the expense of their long-term well-being, and they stick to the person who hurts them. They go back to that person even if they've tried to leave, even if they've separated for a while. But I want you to know this. The shocking part is that 65% of people who finally escaped reported crucial or actual physical withdrawal symptoms like nausea, insomnia, even trembling, just like quitting a drug. So no, you're not weak for staying. It's just your brain fighting an addiction that's wired into biology. Let's talk a bit about the brain chemistry. Let's decode exactly what happens to your brain in a trauma bond. First of all, toxic relationships create a chemical cocktail. We have the roller coaster effect. So when someone treats you terribly, but then they act kind, and you have these periods of niceness switched by periods of fighting, yelling, and feeling unsafe. You know, your brain releases a dopamine response, dopamine flow 3 to 5 times higher and stronger than consistent kindness creates. This is kind of like the difference between pouring yourself a cup of coffee or having cocaine. It's just something that could feel boring and normal versus something that gives you a tremendous high. This creates dramatic chemical spikes that your brain starts to crave. The brain adapts to this. Then we have the pain-pleasure confusion, because after a nasty fight and maybe some periods spent apart, making up feels incredibly good because your body switches from pumping stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to flooding with relief hormones such as dopamine and endorphins. Then your brain makes this connection. It starts associating stress and those highs with extreme pleasure, creating a dangerous addiction that keeps you on a roller coaster. We also have the Stockholm effect. So what is the Stockholm syndrome? You know that when a kidnapper has a victim, eventually the victim develops a bond with the kidnapper. When someone controls your emotional state, your brain releases bonding hormones, oxytocin, to help you survive the threat. It's like your brain is saying, this person can hurt me, so I better befriend them, because then you're in hope of surviving, in hope that they will spare you. So yeah, you try to keep them happy so they don't cause unhappiness or a threat to you. Think about it like this. In healthy relationships, your emotions stay within a comfortable range, while this kind of like the temperature in a room, it's, regulated, while being in a trauma bond, it's constantly shifted from hot to cold, and you don't know what to expect. 1 minute it's normal, the next it's hot, the next you're freezing. So much unpredictability. And now let's talk a bit about why smart people experience challenges living a trauma bond. Being intelligent creates these special kinds of traps. For example, we have the problem solver paradox. Harvard research found that high achievers are especially vulnerable to being in a trauma bond because they thrive on solving problems. And so if they end up in a relationship like that, they think, well, how can I fix this? This must be fixable. There must be a way to improve this. If I just find the right approach, I can fix it. Trying to fix an abusive dynamics is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. It won't get better. Really, pouring more attention or effort does not make it better. It's a cycle that continues. Regardless of how you speak, how you explain yourself, it will continue. Then there's the rationalization trap, because with rationalization, our brain creates very logically sounding excuses of why this is happening. We're basically writing a case of why this relationship is a good idea, or at least not a terrible idea, why it's bearable, despite all the discomfort we're experiencing. So smart people would say stuff like, he's just dealing with childhood trauma, or, he's having a bad day. He didn't mean it, he's too stressed at work. Because confronting reality and saying stuff like, he's abusive, is actually too hard to cope with. And it means that you're admitting that something is majorly wrong, but then if it's wrong, why are you there, right? So it bears an even more uncomfortable question after that. Then we have the intelligence shame spiral. And what does that mean? The smarter you are, the more you think, I should know better. And when we feel shame, we tend to hide the problem because we are afraid that people will mock us, that people will confirm our fears like, are you dumb for staying? Or, well, isn't it obvious that you shouldn't be staying in there? And that could sound very harsh, especially when you're in such a vulnerable state. So I completely understand if you don't feel like voicing it out loud, but the more you keep it inside and the more shame you feel, the less chances you have of getting out, because you need an external point of view and someone to also tell you, hey, but this is not right, you deserve better. And no one can tell you that if you're not sharing this, right? Then we have the high achiever's identity crisis, because, after investing years in a relationship that is not gonna work out for the long term or longer than it already has, you think, I'm a failure. I failed my relationship, or I failed in my love life. I don't want my neighbors, my friends, my acquaintances, my parents, grandparents, and whoever to know this. It's better to admit that something isn't for you than suffer silently. There's also the biological survival response, and that's related to your primitive brain and how it functions. Our primitive brain gets rewired in trauma bonding. There's the Fawn Response. So you've heard of the fight, flight, and freeze, but trauma experts identify a fourth survival response, Fawn. And it's when you can't escape a threat, your brain decides, I'll please it instead. So, like a hostage who starts helping their captor, another aspect of Stockholm Syndrome. You begin anticipating their needs, walking on eggshells, making yourself small, almost invisible, so they don't threaten you, so you make them feel happy. It's not a choice, it's a survival coping mechanism. Then there's also the gambling effect. Studies show that rats who are pressing a lever to get rewards will faint to exhaustion if rewards come unpredictably versus when they know when they're getting the reward. And this explains why someone who treats you well 30% of the time creates a strong attachment, because your brain gets hooked on trying to win those good moments, just like a slot machine keeps gamblers pulling the lever. Then there's a recalibrated warning system. After months or years of toxicity, your internal danger detector breaks down. Red flags start feeling normal. This is the new normal. while green flags, respect and consistency, feel too far off for you to actually consider them. And even though you being called names or being put down and disrespected may feel normal for you at the moment, it's not. It's not, and it shouldn't be acceptable, and you shouldn't tolerate it because you can have so much better. Then we also have the misinterpreted signals, your physical responses, racing heart, butterflies in the stomach. This is often anxiety disguised as butterflies, which means that your nervous system is sensing a threat. But if we are not very in tune with that, we may mistake the signal for something supposedly good or exciting, right? And there's this famous psychology experiment where men had to cross a dangerous bridge, and they were more likely to mistake their fear response for attraction to a woman that they saw, they met on the bridge. And this is crazy because it's your body's reaction to threat feels mistakenly similar to romantic excitement and attraction. Okay, now let's get to the nitty-gritty of this and breaking free. There is good news. It's that your brain can become your greatest ally in escaping by first naming the addiction, simply identifying the situation as this is a biochemical addiction, not real love, or I'm stuck in a trauma bond, not love. Shifts dramatically the focus and removes the shame because it's your brain being hijacked and not you being stupid or something like that. Then we also have the 45-day freedom timeline, and what this means is basically that trauma bond withdrawal symptoms peak between 1 to 2 weeks after splitting up with the person and keeping no contact, and then decrease by day 45. I want you to remember this. Whenever you feel like texting the person or calling them or getting back to them after you've broken contact and you've deleted social media or you block their number, just don't call them. I know it feels painful. I know it feels like you need to call them, you need to get closure, you need to, I don't know, whatever. It's just a trick from your brain because it's experiencing withdrawal symptoms. And if you call this person, the cycle will begin again, the vicious cycle. And you don't want that. You can't fix this person, you can't fix the relationship. Trying to fix this relationship and trauma bond is like trying to stop a hurricane that destroys everything around it. So please, and behind it. So please don't resist. Call a friend. Dump your thoughts on paper. Just don't call that person when you feel the urge. It will feel horrible. You may cry, you may yell. Just don't call them. Then there's also number 3, the neurochemical replacement plan. And that means that your brain needs new sources of the same chemicals, which you can get by exercising. Exercise creates endorphins, and accomplishments create dopamine. So achieving small tasks daily can actually make you feel accomplished and better about yourself. Also, safe connections with trusted friends and people you love, like your family, can make you feel oxytocin, the bonding hormone. So by day 67 of consistent new routines, brain scans show your neural pathways literally rebuild themselves away from the addiction. You will start to feel calmer, more at ease. Then we also have the override systems. While emotions feel overwhelming, your logical brain can vet them with practice. It's like building a muscle, just like when training in the gym. It becomes better with repetitions and consistency. Then, if you're still trapped in a trauma bond, I want you to hear this clearly. Your intelligence didn't fail you. Your brain was hijacked by biological processes that are very smart and would affect the smartest person on earth. The same intelligent mind that keeps you stuck right now can help you escape. We just need to direct its superpower in the right way. The most hopeful part, research shows people who break free from trauma bonds often develop extraordinary healthy relationships afterwards and emotional intelligence. This is possible, and your current path or current situation doesn't have to be the end of your story. You can do way better. You just need awareness first and actions second. If this video turned on some light bulbs for you, hit that like button and subscribe for weekly insights on how to heal from toxic relationships. Want personalized support? Click the link in my description to book a free 30-minute discovery call where we will talk about your specific struggles and how to turn them into your advantage.